It was a somber Monday night in Luxembourg honoring 3 fallen American heroes. Over a 4-year period, the small community lost 3 Marines, Corporal Jesse Theory, Sergeant Luke Zimmerman, and Lance Corporal Dean Opichka, all killed by IEDs. Last night, their family and friends were presented with painted portraits of their loved ones, honoring their ultimate sacrifice. And tonight, we're going to introduce you to the painter.
He's a war hero who continues to serve decades after his time spent fighting for our country. But instead of serving the United States military, he now serves fallen heroes and their families. New at 10, Brittany Smith tells us the painter's story.
Every day, 94-year-old Alex Yauer weaves around the boxes in his Pennsylvania basement to get to his workshop, anxious to see a familiar face.
I just start talking to them, that's all.
It sounds as though he is catching up with an old friend.
Pretty soon, I'll be all done here. I'll get you all together, and you'll be going home.
And it looks as if he's the only one in the room.
Sorry this had to happen.
But don't let your eyes fool you. Yauer is talking to a fellow comrade.
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Because he too knows what it's like to serve his country.
Someday we'll all be together again up in heaven.
And lose fellow comrades in battle.
Tell you the truth, it's not easy. When you see your friends dying, it's not easy at all.
Yauer is a World War II veteran, almost losing his life in the Battle of Saipan.
And if I didn't go with my buddy, I wouldn't be here today.
After the war, Yauer says he was never the same.
For a year, I never went out, left the house.
Eventually, he got a job at a steel mill, married his high school sweetheart, and took up painting. But even his favorite pastime couldn't help him forget where he had been and what he had seen.
I really don't like to talk about it too much.
So he decided to put his talents to good use.
This was his pet.
Painting portraits of more than 100 fallen American heroes for the families left behind.
He'll be going home.
Including the 3 fallen Marines from Luxembourg Casco.
One time, I couldn't get the chin just right. And he had a small smile on his face. But when I was working on the chin, and I looked up in his eyes, and it was more like a frown than a smile. I kept working, and then finally I got it the way I wanted. I looked up at his eyes, and the smile was back again. I'm sorry.
It's those moments, along with the thank you letters, that make Yauer feel at peace, worthwhile. But there are still times of doubt.
And I get very, very, very nice letters from the mothers. And quite a few of them said, why did my son or daughter have to die? And I feel the same way.
It's not always easy for Yauer.
And you did your job.
Looking into the eyes of a fallen American hero.
You thought you did what you were supposed to do to protect the people.
But he is a Marine.
Semper Fi. And in the Marine Corps, that's always faithful.
And that means more than some will ever know.
It's just the feeling that you're a Marine, and it's inside of you. And that's why you say, the saying is, once a Marine, always a Marine, no matter how old you are or what. Even when you go upstairs, you're a Marine yet.
In Pennsylvania, Brittany Schmidt.
If I live to be 100 and I can still do it, I'll still do it.
Action 2 News.
94 years old.
So powerful. I mean, it is in his blood.
And such a pleasure for the families, I think, to see those and receive those.
No doubt, no doubt. Just here with Now Sports.
Yeah, that's a tough act to follow.
A 94-year-old World War II veteran we first told you about back in February. He painted 3 portraits of fallen heroes from the Luxembourg Casco area, and he hasn't put the paintbrush down since. This time he is honoring a young woman from Lena, Wisconsin.
The 19-year-old was a little more than 2 weeks into her deployment in Iraq when she was killed. Tonight her family is honored with a special painting. New at 10, Brittany Schmidt introduces us to Army Reserve Specialist Nicole M. Fry.
It's a somber Monday night in Lena, Wisconsin.
Her smile is the one thing that stands out in everybody's mind.
But their smiles soon fade as they know what's on the other side of this American flag. A portrait of their 19-year-old daughter, Specialist Nicole M. Fry of the Army Reserve.
It humbles us that everybody is still remembering her, even though this is a small town.
The painter, 94-year-old World War II Marine Alex Yower, continues to serve, painting portraits of fallen heroes for their families free of charge. Nicole's parents, Jamie and Lisa Fry, say she wanted to help people.
She wanted to do something to help the community, like a firefighter, a police officer.
But first, wanted to find a way to pay for college.
She knew she could get training and other things through the military and money to go on to school, so that's the route she took.
A former neighbor remembers her love for learning.
I says, "What's the plan?" She said, "Reserves." And actually, the last thing I said to her, I thought it was a great idea.
Just 19 days into her tour in Iraq.
I can still see the officer that came and told us.
Specialist Fry was killed February 16, 2004.
It's still a hard, bad memory that we live every day, you know.
And buried in St. Charles Cemetery. Kashava, the groundskeeper there, continues to watch over Specialist Fry's final resting spot.
If there's anything wrong with the flags, I replace them.
And now, with a donation from another American Legion post in Rome, Wisconsin,
today we're here to dedicate a flagpole for all veterans in memory of Nicole Fry.
You'll have one more flag to look after.
I make sure the flags look nice. That's part of what I do.
In Lena, Brittany Schmidt, Action 2 News.
An Appleton family remembers their loved one tonight during a special American Legion portrait presentation.
Over the past year, we've been following World War II veteran Alex Yower as he continues to paint portraits of fallen heroes for their families. And tonight's painting, as Brittany Schmidt reports, is for the family of Staff Sergeant Garrick Eppinger Jr. of the U.S. Army Reserve.
In a room full of friends, Linda and Garrick Eppinger Sr. are handing out Christmas cards.
I just hand them out randomly because you never know who needs to be cheered up.
But little did they know, they too would be getting a Christmas present all their own Monday night.
None.
No, absolutely not.
When veterans from Ryan Larson Post 65 removed this American flag and revealed a painted portrait of their son, Staff Sergeant Garrick Eppinger Jr.
You recognize this man? Does he look like your son? Yeah. He's a handsome-looking fella.
It was almost like he was standing in the room.
It was amazing.
I mean, he captured him just dead on.
Staff Sergeant Eppinger Jr. is the 129th fallen American hero. 94-year-old veteran Alex Yower has painted for families.
He was a veteran of World War II. He was a veteran on Iwo Jima. He saw the flag go up on Suribachi. The man is a walking history book.
And Yower continues to do it, free of charge for those who make the ultimate sacrifice, like Staff Sergeant Eppinger Jr. did in September of 2011 when he was killed during his third tour overseas in Afghanistan.
Every time he deployed, we'd sit down and we'd have the talk about what it meant to wear that uniform and that at the cost of life, where you'd be spending eternity.
We already knew that if anything happened to him, that we'd see him again.
And now he will be waiting at home as well, just in time for the holidays.
His portrait will hang where he can see the Christmas tree.
You might say this would be the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah. It does more than a conversation piece because everyone that knew him, when they walked in the house, can say, oh yeah, that's him.
In Appleton, Brittany Schmidt, Action 2 News.